Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hamster's Hobby Hang. How you doing? Lovely to see you all. Yes, let us please once again shout out Michelle. Her distinct impact on Dwarven Forge will be a huge part of her legacy and ours. So thank you to all of you that showed up in the stream last night. It was so fun to celebrate with you all and see all the comments and hear some of the history. It was a lot of fun, even though it has some sadness to it. It was a fun stream to hang out in. So we're going back. Speaking of history, we're going way back to the beginning of Hobby Hang with some of my favorite miniatures. One of my favorite games. We're back to Relic Blade. I painted a ton of Relic Blade early on in the stream because that's kind of when I was first discovering it. If you don't know Relic Blade, it's a very fast, fun skirmish game on a 2x2, so you don't need a lot of space. But the creator, Sean Sutter, writes the rules, sculpts the miniatures, does all the fantastic art in the book, works with the caster and gets those minis cast and packs them in his garage. It's really like a one artist gig, and I think it's just such full of character as models and as a game. And it's just my favorite thing that exists on all fronts, not even just as a game. Favorite creator, favorite art, favorite minis, and the game's a lot of fun too. It's very fast to pick up with the help of the fantastic cards which he has drawn. But then the depth comes into like all the combinations you can do, because it's basically I don't want to say good guys and bad guys, but kind of adversary and advocate in this case, and you can field any models that have the same alignment. So there are synergies. They're sold as factions. You can buy them like faction packs, and they'll have synergies, but it really opens up when you can just combine them however you want. And there are upgrades. Some are universal, some require certain character types and stuff, so it's very fast and simple to learn and play and have a great time. But there's a lot of depth too. I'd say once you start learning the game, you can finish games in less than an hour, maybe even 30 minutes if you're going fast. So they kind of are poop goblins. They're kind of troll folk. And it doesn't help that I did brown, but you know what I've been doing lately. I've been doing like a weird dark saturated shadow and then like an opacity mid-tone. This is a little darker than mid-tone I'm trying out. But it's just so that we're not layering from super dark. There's like one step up to paint our mid-tones onto. Yes, Relic Blade. Let me put it in the... because you really should check it out. It's a fantastic operation from Sean Sutter, Metal King Studios. And he made a little offshoot game called, well, it's a distinct game called Cursebreaker, which is kind of like Frostgrave. It's like wizard battles, magic heavy, but there are cards, and the models obviously are also cross compatible with Relic Blade. So there's kind of like multiple games going on. There's a solo and cooperative dungeon crawl campaign, which I actually want to try. This week I found the book finally. I've never gone through it, but I have all these models somewhere. So I want to paint them up and maybe go through that solo. Or maybe someone at Dwarven Forge will play with me cooperatively. There's also like versus campaigns. The 2-player starter set, Storms of Curall, comes with a 2-player versus campaign to get you started and get you used to doing the different stuff. You can get card upgrades attached to your stuff with campaigns. There's a lot of fun campaign mechanics. But even just, I've mostly played it just, hey, let's set up and play really fast, just versus, and it's very fun. But anyway, that's what we have here. These are just kind of like this is from the main faction pack of the Og Sul, they're called. They're like little troll orc things. And these are neat because they have a mechanic that I haven't used yet called Team, where basically you normally activate one model at a time, but these need to activate together. So it's kind of cool. And then I have, this is sort of like the elite smasher guy. You can see I haven't done the brown midtone yet. And this is the leader, like a chieftain warlord type guy. He came with a sword arm option, but this is such a weird weapon shape that I had to use it. It's very fun. I think this would be a really great miniatures game for someone like that who's board game focused, because all the information you need is on the cards, and even the basic actions, you can get a card that has just the basic actions on it, and then otherwise you're just reading the card. Yeah, like a cricket bat. I kind of thought of it as like an ore sword. A sword, but you spell the word ore in the middle of it. But yeah, can't speak highly enough of Relic Blade and Sean Sutter. I try to chat with him at Adepticon every year, and I should say too, he's always very, very kind to me. Yeah, looks like a paddle, exactly. Okay. I need to figure out which paints I'm using. Get them on the palette. Maybe I haven't done this really before. I'll put it on screen here. I mean, it's not all that fancy. This is like a pre-bought wet palette, but I don't use any of the stuff that it came with, so I wouldn't say that you have to use one of these. It's just nice to have a shallow tray, which you can also do with like a Tupperware container. Otherwise, it's just parchment paper instead of like the palette paper, because that's kind of annoying to replace and a little more expensive. This is just like baking paper. It's like wax paper without the wax. And then the sponge is, I think it's just called a Swedish towel. This is like a really thin sponge towel. But I have a bunch of even lying around. Dry erase tokens, also one of my favorite accessories that I've bought recently. But yeah, I just have like a shallow Tupperware lying around I'll use for that palette stuff. Yeah, these are great too, actually. It's super cheap. This is a box of like frickin' 100 of them or something, and they're just dry erase tokens. Yeah, sushi delivery lid, exactly, something like that. Like this has a lid, but I don't even know where it is. I don't even use it, because like I don't really preserve colors between sessions. I don't actually think that's the purpose of this palette, because the water will just make them unusable anyway, in my opinion. Like if you leave it overnight. So I always just start fresh when I'm using it, but some people do. Some people leave it overnight, and it is fairly airtight with the lids, so you can do that. And this one isn't even really all that expensive. I think it's like $20 or less. And I've used it for years, so. But often, you know, you can get like a Tupperware. I get like a Tupperware and a parchment paper from the dollar store. And then you're golden. been using this heavier white recently because normally if I want to lighten something, I kind of want it to be fairly opaque, like it's going to be a highlight. You obviously, you know, you can mix a lot of colors with just like one red and one blue, but I kind of like having a warm and a cool because to get like a, you know, it's hard to get an orangey color with this cool red and like a yellow. It kind of just gets kind of muddy and not really bright orange. So this is like an orangey red. And then, I don't know, a lot of times with my metals, my non-metallic steel type stuff, I'll use both of these for different things. Or also too, it's like if I need like a darker blue, I'll start here because this is kind of a mid value, so you could omit a few of these, but I just kind of pulled them off the shelf here. Sometimes I'll throw on like a cooler yellow too, but I don't think I'll need it here. We're on like some grungy goblin guys. I usually have like a slightly medium and then a small crappy artificial brush, which I'll do a lot of work with, and then the same for the natural hairs, just for the tip to get really fine little points and accuracy and stuff, precision. So it's a size 2 and a size 1. Rosemary & Co. and Michigan Toy Soldier, I'm pretty sure is Rosemary & Co. and they just brand it. That was my understanding when I bought it, because it's like one of the easier ways to get Rosemary & Co. brushes in the US, because for a while they like weren't shipping over here. I could be wrong about that, but I think these are both Rosemary & Co. And they've done me well. I have a lot of brands I'm not necessarily attached to, but I do like ones that have a fairly like medium body. They're not super stubby. They can hold some paint. They're a little bit on the long side. Generally for like humanoid size stuff, that's what I'm using. Kind of thought about what colors I was gonna do. We'll see. I also like how the reason I like to do this sort of mid layer in a random like brown color for opacity is because it gives us some area to like have variance. So what I mean is like I could take the same color that I'm using and do it in areas that have the brown and that don't, and so you will get like basically a different color or a different value just by painting the same color on the area. So it's a really quick step that I just do, you know, as a preliminary thing that just gives us opportunities for variation, basically. And it primarily, why I use it is because it helps opacity. And even if someone's left behind, I kind of like that because it adds a little vibration, again, a little variance. So I don't really mind it if it shows up here or there. Because normally from table view you won't notice, but you will notice like a cool factor. Just because of the transparency of paint. And it also, when I do this, I'm just getting familiar with the model of like, okay, how's the light gonna sort of play on this thing? And I've already gained some familiarity with it, so I'm kind of cooking with gas when we start. Just having put paint to model and seeing all the little details and stuff. And also too, sometimes this mid-brown step, like, once in a while I'll find opportunities to just sort of leave it, like, oh, that pouch already kind of has this brown color on it. I don't think I actually have to touch it anymore. So those little things that like aren't the main focus of the mini, once in a while it's like, or I'll just hit it with like a quick highlight really fast. It already has like a mid-neutral color to it, a pouch or a belt or something. So that's also why I've liked adding that step. I mean, the blue and brown, basically orange, it's basically just slap shop, but I think it's a little more intentional. Like, it's more like a value sketch where it's not like a full dry brush of just everything. It's like still drawing light and choosing light direction and stuff, but it just adds you know, instead of using black and white, it just adds a little something more exciting. Just setting up for sort of accidents. It's like, oh, I left behind this random thing, and it's kind of cool. That I wouldn't have thought to like do deliberately. That's sort of also why I do this. Okay, a little too red. So I'm gonna, like, I am trying to do a complementary thing for like red and green, but I'm gonna, with the mids and the highlights, I'm gonna shift them a little bit so they're not like too crazy complementary, so it looks like Christmas goblins. But I'm starting there with like the saturation and this low mid, and then we can adjust it. So I think like the skin, the greenish skin will lean a little more blue actually, but it will have green notes that can complement the reddish cloth stuff. Is my initial idea when I was staring at these at work when I put them together. So we'll see how it works out. Oh, I forgot the ears. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. It's kind of like, you know, we want really high contrast because we're painting small things seen from far away, but I think there's a way to do it without using just straight black. So I'm glad you like this. It's been a lot of fun. Especially, you know, we're looking at it on stream up close on camera, but the effect is really fun from table view, where it's like, it's a little less outrageous, but you can tell there's like a little cool vibration going on. And like, it's not really a new idea. Like, it comes from, first of all, I mean, it comes from like thousands of years of master classical painters. But, you know, looking at things like the Craft World Studio style, I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with that, right? Or a lot of, you know, you might find a YouTube tutorial. Sorry if I've gone down this tangent before, but the YouTube tutorial that's like, put purple in the shadows, it looks really cool. And it's like, yeah, but what I always ran into is like, yeah, but why though? Like, I really want to understand why. And I think it has to do with, it's a cool effect to have saturation in the shadows, right? So what does that tell me? That limits my options, because which colors are dark enough to be a shadow while saturated, right? Yellow, being the most yellow it can be, will never be dark. It will always be light, right? Otherwise, it's starting to go not saturated. It's starting to go brown and black. But something, that's why purple is such a good option, is it's one of the most colors, it's one of the colors that can be the most saturated while being dark. And blue is also a good option for that. It's usually a blue that will lean purple because it needs to be dark enough to be a true shadow. And then magenta you often see. Why is that? Well, because it's a red, but it's also leaning purple, right? Which is sort of the best option for this, because it's the darkest color while being saturated. So it's like, okay, you can kind of lean into blue and maybe even green. You can lean into red, but it's all pointing towards purple, also a good option itself, because you're trying to get saturated shadows, and they're the most saturated while being dark enough to be a shadow. And also, right, David, there's very few shadows that are truly black. And again, I think it gives us more room to play. Like, it gives us more room to work with. Where, like, you can have black shadows, like maybe under the arms, if you're holding your weapon in your shield, right? Like this. Right under the arms, sure, that's a darker shadow. But there's light bouncing all around everywhere else. So, like, there's not a lot of truly black shadows, and giving yourself that area of black shadow makes it gives you room to tell the story that this shadow is the darkest shadow, and the other shadows out here aren't that dark. So it just gives you a little more room to play. And the only black shadows that exist commonly are like occlusion shadows. which is where literally there's no way for light to go. Between my fingers, right? Like my fingers are not pure black, right? But there's an area of that thin line that is pure black. Now, notably, there's a small area around that line that is still shadow as the form turns, but it's not black. But so the area of actual black occlusion is very narrow, narrower even than it might appear. It's like the very deepest part only, like 0.5 millimeter. But that's also why black lining, see, this is another thing where it's like, okay, but why from YouTube tutorials? Well, black lining your miniatures makes it look great. Okay, but what is that? Like, what is it doing? Why? And it's all the occlusion. A pouch next to a body is going to have light occlusion, meaning there's an area, usually an edge and an outline, where no light hits because it's contact. It's like a contact line. And so that's what black lining is doing. It's making occlusion shadows on the points of contact, like other things touching other stuff. Well, this is a new function. Avenger, congrats on the 30 stream streak. But yeah, this is what we painted last time, and this is very exaggerated, right? Like, this is going super blue. It's almost not dark enough to be a pure shadow, but it kind of is. Especially too, what's helping me here is there's actual physical shadows happening. But just like, look at the story this is telling of. Between here, it's slightly lighter. Between here, it's darker, but it's still bluish. And then on this rock, on the inside of the rock, like this whole area, this like orb of area, like negative space, is shadow. Just very cool. Like, this in here is a little over exaggerated. I looked at it after. But it's still really cool. Like, it still looks kind of cool. There's like this pocket where the barrel drum magazine is kind of making a little pocket. I don't think that would be true like in real life, but it looks cool. And just having, like, you know, this blue shadow next to the green, especially on the face too, there's like all this warmth, and then it turns back here into cool. If this was black, it would just kind of disappear into kind of blah, you know. This is a good example of the orangey brown midtone. Not even midtone, just like that opacity pre-layer sort of showing up right here, which I think looks kind of cool. It adds that extra flair in a way that was purely by accident, pretty much. We just set it up for the accident to happen. So again, remember, like, this is an exaggerated effect, and we're seeing it from really far. Like, look at the difference there. Like, imagine all the blue was black. It wouldn't quite have like that sci-fi glow that I like. That vibration between everything. There's a little extra oomph, you know? And then when you are staring at it, yeah, it's a little out there. That's why a purple might be a more natural example, because it's actually darker. And then you can get into like chromatic blacks, like notice I got through practicing this by not putting black on my palette. I put it on there for base rims at the end, that's it, because I like a black base rim. But just straight up not having black on the palette. So then what do you do when you need dark? You find ways, like, basically if you mix complementary colors, here's a little paint mixing color theory here. You can neutralize colors by mixing its complements. So we were just talking about red and green. If you mix red and green, it will kind of start to go brown, go gray. So you can do a lot of really interesting things with careful mixes of red and green, or even like this red-brown at Viridian. You know, it's basically red and green. It's doing a cool thing. So this can get a fairly decent, almost black, chromatic black. But basically, for it to be full chromatic black, it actually has all of the colors in it. Like you would mix um, red, yellow, blue in equal proportions. But, you know, it depends on which blue, red, green. Like, it will usually go kind of brown. But theoretically, you can get something really dark and really close to black with those three colors. So imagine, like, we're just talking about mixing red and green to get this chromatic black. Red and green is blue and yellow, right? So you're mixing red, blue, and yellow. So that's been a lot of fun. It's just probably the past, like, over a year now. It's like, hey, just as an experiment, do not put black on your palette. Do not use it to mix anything. And then I recently came upon a new idea. If you're interested in this stuff, I would highly suggest just look at traditional paint videos. I love my mini tubers, but just look at, you know, this is stuff that people have learned over centuries, you know, with oil painting and stuff. So there's a lot of great videos to tap into this. But it's like, okay, so when people have black on the palette, what are they doing with it? Well, sometimes, like, if you think of the Zorn palette, this is a common thing that's come up in minis. It's a fun experiment to use the limited palette, the Zorn palette. So the black is blue in that case, just because it's the bluest option. Now, obviously, it's going to be a very drab type of blue. But I saw this one artist painting where they're like, I put a very small amount of my black, like ivory black, into my yellow to make greens. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, they're really natural, grassy kind of greens. Now, as you can imagine, if you had too much black, it's going to go black. It's going to go crazy. But just a small touch of that was basically behaved like a blue in that it made greens. But because it was such a strong dark black, it was really gritty greens. Yeah, black just doesn't appear very often in nature. That's right. So it's just been fun to experiment with, like, okay, what else can we use? And sometimes, like, you can just try weird stuff for the sake of it. Like, years ago now, I'm trying to think. I did almost like a pure magenta, like very red base. And it looked kind of weird, like, but I basically just, all of my further layers on top of it were lighter, so the values kind of worked. And it was just a neat effect that it had never happened before. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to my Instagram and I'm going to see if what I'm talking about is on here. Oh yeah, kinda. I can't get her to show up. Oh, here we go. I'm looking at this one on the right. It's a little less red than I thought. Like, there's kind of purpley shadows. I mean, this was before I, like, knew, you know, like, what was going on with this. But you can definitely see it on, like, I went for, like, a magenta non-metallic, which, like, I don't think was super successful, but it is unique, you know. It definitely is doing a flourish thing. And actually, this is some of my first non-metallic where I was like trying to go super stylized. And so they almost look like mirrors. Like there's not a lot of like the light bouncing. It's just a streak with like a lens flare, which I actually think is kind of cool. Once again, not realistic, not usable in like all contexts or effects that you want to execute, but I do think there's kind of something to it. So yeah. That's another one of my favorite sculptors called Skyboar Miniatures. At least the dwarves are some of my faves. See, we're already going like pretty blue-gray over the green, but leaving that behind will give us some cool saturation to work with. And with all skin, even like fantastical skin tones, try to do a step that adds a little life with like some blood color, you know, reddish tones at the knees and stuff. But see, I love this already. Look at this. Like, we have some of the blue and the weird redness in this area. I'm leaving that. Just because, like, from afar, it adds, like, a really cool effect. Now from here, one thing I've been working on, we're still fairly dark. So in the past, I would kind of like layer up fairly slowly, but I want to get the high contrast like kind of fast. So I'm gonna like start to make some jumps so that we're not spending forever. Like if you want really smooth layers, you can do that, and it's very fun and looks good. But I don't have time for that tonight. Kind of basically just gonna go in with quite a bit of white. Start to get those highlights in, not like the top highlight, but at least like drawing the areas of highlight, and then if we really need to, we can glaze on top, you know. See, look how nice that's popping now. Like, our eyes do some of the work. It's called optical mixing. Like, from afar, we don't have to make everything smooth because our eyes will sort of smooth it out. If you look up super duper duper close, right up to your eye, you're going to notice the transitions. But from table view, you have some leeway. And even on camera here, I think. So it's just one of those things that's like, you could paint like layer by layer by layer. It's just like, to me, the amount of impact versus the work. Like, I think we can get more impact with less work, actually. If we just make big jumps and make it flashy. So that's kind of like what my style and my process has become on these on stream, as I'm sure you've like seen develop over the years if you've been here a long time. And that's why it's like, man, it happens so fast. It's like, well, I'm just like, I've learned which corners I like to cut and where I want to like really push the slider up. In ways that kind of lets me get away with skipping other things. And then sometimes I surprise myself too, where it's like, look, I told myself this was a highlight, and this is still fairly dark. Like, this is still middle of the road. So that's also what I wanted to look out for, is like, if I'm gonna do like 4 or 5 layers, they need to get up to the full range of contrast. So sometimes I'll do 4 or 5 layers and it's like, oh man, I'm only at 50%. So now I have to do twice as much work afterward. Time for me to retire this detail brush. Is it preying on you? And I already kind of have a lighter mix here that maybe I'll just go right into. Dolly's trying to get under my desk to my feet since Mama's gone. Now you don't. Now you want to explore some more? All right. It's split into factions. There's a civil war going on my bristles. That's funny. Yes, Dolly, hello. She's pawing me because she's upset that her mom's gone, but Dolly, we're painting. We can't. I'm sorry. Oh, got some good contrast going on. But hopefully you can see it's just like a lot of the bluishness and even some of that mid-brown. It's like, it's just there to be left behind subtly. It adds a lot. So now we'll kind of do the same thing with this red. Like I said, we're going to make it a little less saturated. Yeah, exactly. It adds a little bit to the tone of the top color. Like there's always, especially with acrylic paint, some level of transparency, even if it looks opaque. Like just there's almost a invisible level of transparency. that's 100% what I want. Let's see. Try that. Organizing is always good. I need to do that on my, well, honestly, on all my hobby hang models on my desk. I need to find homes for them. There we go. It's kind of turning like red-gray, but like red enough next to the greenish skin that it's kind of doing a thing a little bit. Dolly, shh. Feverishly painting my dungeons. Awesome. Are they like classic vaulted? Or are they sinister? Or are you doing a custom scheme? Teal dungeons. Oh, awesome. I freaking love teal. It's probably my favorite color. One of my co-players in my game, one of her jobs is like a costume maker, designer. Like she's a burlesque performer and makes her own stuff, and also will do like costume commissions. And so she asked our favorite colors one holiday, the group, and I said teal. And so we all got black hoods, like mantle hoods, where the inner layer was just like a satin fabric, and the color that we said was our favorite. So I have a teal, shimmery black cloak hood. It's very cool. Oh, I'm just realizing this shield needs some of that brown mid little mapping. Okay, I'm pretty much done layering up the like reddish cloth on the skin. Give me 5 to use the bathroom and try to settle down Dolly a little bit. A BRB. Bouquet of flowers, which were the skin tones non-human of the non-human characters. That sounds awesome. It's a good idea. Alright, I think for these leather stuff, kind of do what I was talking about before, which is like, just sort of get them done, you know? They're not the most important things, so we'll just make sure they look cool and move on. It's like any sort of neutral item section that I can use a neutral color on, like shoes, belts, straps. If I can do it almost the same without mixing new paints and stuff, I would try to do that usually. Just at least when we're trying to save time, you know? Oh no! Honestly, the amount of miniatures I painted, especially if you count like dwarf and porch prototypes, versus the amount of minis I still drop is kind of ridiculous. This is maybe a little too close to the skin color, but we can adjust it as we go. Yeah, and I have dozens and dozens of those miniatures, so I'm with you. I have plenty to paint of that, of Relic Blade. considering doing this blade the opposite sort of light here, but maybe not. Well, how about a 25 blocks done? Elevation blocks. Wow. blade is a little trickier than I first thought. Yeah, it's definitely very cool. Kind of just threw me for a loop for a second as far as painting the light. I'm gonna leave that. Because really what I want to practice here is some non-metallic, like yellowy bronze. Oh, also I wanted to do this silver because we can add some gray to the hair. Not actually 100% on that, maybe not, but we'll see. It's mostly just, it's too close to the skin color and stuff. Hello, thank you so much for jumping in and saying hi. I might be wet blending a little bit, mostly because I made a mistake on the color I wanted, but there's a lot of white in my mix right now, and so it's like really matte and opaque, so it also does dry kind of fast. I'm not really deliberately doing one or the other, I'm just kind of trying to get a progression going quickly. Not sure if I'm 100% sold on the effect on these areas, but that's fine. Of the, am I getting the color scheme of this relic blade? No, I'm just coming up with it. Is it really close to the site? Would be kind of a funny coincidence. Hey, Talon, thanks for the sub. What you consider a mistake looks very cool. Well, I'm glad you think so. I really do. Sometimes I'm like, oh no. Sorry, these eyes are a little hard to see deep in the helmets. Yeah, sometimes if it's not well sculpted, like the eye isn't deliberately sculpted really neatly, I'll just do like a shadow, a dramatic shadow in like the eye socket. Sometimes it looks cooler, honestly, than a full eye. Alright, I think we're pretty well done. Oh, thank you, yeah. Yeah, I just enjoy non-metallic effects more. Like, I like that it looks painted. Like, some people don't like that. Like, they're like, oh, it looks weird or it looks fake, like, from certain angles. And it's like, that's always going to be true on, like, a 3D thing that you can turn around, but I don't really mind it. Hey Zoop, have a good night. Thanks for hanging out. We're pretty close to being done anyway. I'm just gonna do the bases. It's kind of fun. Kind of toxic looking. Not super grassy, but fantastical and stylized, so I don't really care. I like that. Well, I appreciate it. Honestly, I mean, the worst answer, I guess, or frustrating answer is it's just practice, right? And I've also practiced this workflow specifically. Like, hobby hang has been limited paints because it's what's on my desk. Mix everything, layer up, uh, and just, how do you break down the miniature to do that? And the stream has been going for like 5 years now, so. This technique specifically, I probably stopped using premix paints at least 4 years ago. For these, for armies, I will. When I design a scheme, maybe I'll do like a mixed paint miniature test model, and then I'll be like, okay, what are like the colors I'm actually end up using and use premix paints. But about to be 6 years, holy smokes. That's wild. Well, and what's interesting is like, yeah, they're kind of matching. But remember, I'm like mixing on the palette, and sometimes I'll run out of paint. You know, so they're not like maybe as exact as you think. They're close enough, obviously. But that's kind of the point. It's like they can be close enough and be cohesive, you know? My dream is kind of to paint an army. Well, for one thing, I have two army dreams. My cities of Sigma are like just humans. It's gonna be like last bastion of humanity, and they're all gonna just be different, and they're gonna be painted hobby hang style and just like any colors I want on that particular day and be like a mishmash. But also imagine like a Space Marine chapter where they're all like, you know, the armor's like manufactured as the same color, but there's like thousands upon thousands of Marines in each chapter, and they may have been stationed for different periods of time. So imagine like a red armor, but across them they might be more faded or more beaten up and stuff. And so they'd all have like red armor as an example, but they wouldn't be exactly quite the same red. I thought that'd be kind of cool. I'm amazed at how different the color feeling is from where you started, and yet I can see them in the shadows. Yeah! Yeah, that's the thing. It's like... That's why I like adding cool stuff in the shadows. Because as long as you deliberately leave some behind, like, you will see it. And again, like, the little armpit ribcage is, like, outrageous shadows, but... From table view, you know, it's just, like, adding a cool effect. But yeah, it's always pushed. Like, that's kind of fun experiment to do, of, like... So we're doing red and green. It's going to be an outrageous Christmassy combo if we do it straight red and green. So how can we sort of push it blue or push it gray so that it still works and we're leveraging that complement, but it doesn't look like Christmas, you know? Yeah, someday. I have a bunch of humans assembled. Maybe I just have to start bringing them home for hobby hang. And again, the grass is like kind of toxic acidy, but I like how much warmer and bright it is than like the blue-green skin. All right, I think we are going to call it here, team. We did 2 models. That is pretty darn good. What's next week? The 12th. I think I should be around, unless, you know, we get a bunch of perilous prototypes that need to be painted. I'm making good progress, though, so I don't think I'll be behind. So hopefully we can do Hobby Hang next week. Yeah, that would be a good Hobby Hang project. And then eventually we'd have a new Warhammer army. Yes, Dolly has... Yes, we're talking about you. She's at my feet. Good girl. Come here, Dolly. Come here, baby. Say goodbye. Come here. Oh, here we go. Say night-night, Dolly. At a friend's musical, that's awesome. I have a voice lesson on Monday. Singing lesson. Maybe maybe the 6th year anniversary is a singing stream? No, I can't believe I said that. We can't do All right. Night night, Donnie. Say bye-bye. Thank you all for hanging, and I will see you next week. Bye.